herping trip, Georgia and I. Due to the time of year and the fact we're busy, it'll probably be the last chance we get out looking for reptiles this year. It's a nice bit of weather and it's about to turn incredibly cold over the next few days, getting ready for sort of mid-autumn. And we're specifically going out adder hunting really, because these animals are going to be heading back now towards their hibernaculums, getting ready to hibernate for the long winter months. Now, it's one of only 2 locations in Northamptonshire that I know of for sure where we can find adders. Lots of people say they've seen adders and they're nearly always around here. In fact, pretty much always grass snakes. Lots of classic things. They'll say they're yay long, 4 feet long. Well, adders don't grow that big. They'll say, if you ask them, did it have the classic yellow ring around its neck? They'll say, yes, of course it did. And that's a grass snake. And mostly they're swimming. Now, adders can swim perfectly well, but generally around these parts, around waterways and lakes and canals, it's actually grass snakes. It's a human nature to go, I saw an adder, rather than I saw a grass snake. It's just how our brains work. It's more exciting. So let me tell you a little bit about this place we're going to. It's a woodland, and I've been coming here thanks to my Auntie Diane, Uncle Pete, Cousin Pete and my parents for, well, all my life, since I was a little kid. Specifically to see adders, because it's a place, as I've already said, where you can find adders around near to our house. It's an hour away, but it's near enough. And it used to be an unknown kind of woodland, really. You know, you might have got a very occasional local walking their dog there, but on the whole, it was an unknown woodland with an old railway track. And the old abandoned railway line, as any naturalist knows, is a haven for wildlife, and it was a perfect spot for adders to bask and sunbathe. You'd be able to see the male adders fighting and courting, which is spectacular, and riddled with rabbit holes and things for them to hibernate into the sides of the bank. So a really good spot for adders in general. Over time, it's become a much poorer habitat for adders. The railway embankment has become completely overgrown, and no one has tended to it at all for any reason, so it's now shaded out from the adder's point of view. So what's happened is that area that was so good is no good at all. It's turned into shrubby woodland, and unfortunately adders don't really make people money. And what I mean by that is big businesses like the RSPB, they can't sell adders. You know, it doesn't make them money. So unfortunately this forest and this woodland became one of the red kite release scheme areas several years back, and the whole area was developed, so hardly any people there, to a massive area. At one time it had an RSPB watch point, and they set up film cameras on the red kite nests, and they encouraged the red kites obviously to breed, and it made a good income for people like the RSPB and for the people that own the forest and woodland, because they then put in a campsite, they put in a calf, all those things to attract people, and they put in cycle routes and such like, all great stuff. The only trouble is these things actually don't benefit reptiles. Once you've got hundreds of thousands of dog walkers coming on, I'm a dog lover, but coming onto a smallish woodland, the reptiles actually suffer, because what's happened is it puts pressure on the reptile life, and they have less places to relax and chill out. Dogs don't do adders any good, and adders don't really do dogs any good, if I'm perfectly honest with you. So the financial gain from having it as a red kite watch point, which is now defunct because red kites are so common everywhere, the RSPB lodge, if you like, is now gone. They don't have it there anymore because it's not making enough money, because anyone can come in and go anywhere to see red kites. They're specifically common. The downside is large numbers of red kites and buzzards live here, and you didn't have these. When I was a kid, red kites and buzzards didn't live in Northamptonshire at all, zero. And they both eat slow worms, they both eat lizards, they both eat baby adders, they both eat grass snakes. So you've now got the sky full of raptors that actually feed on the reptiles. So you've got exponential growth of public pressure. You've got 2 birds of prey that now, if you're a slow worm or a common lizard, because that's what lives here as well, they're eating you. And you've got the best part of all, where there was really a hot spot for adders, this old railway embankment, perfect hibernaculum, perfect sunbathing site, perfect breeding grounds, with no one there. And that's become overgrown with shrubbery. So that's nature, isn't it? So it's how nature takes over and changes a habitat. So we're going to see what we can see. We won't find a dozen adders like in the olden days, and several slow worms, and 3 or 4 grass snakes, and 10 common lizards, because that's what it was like. I think we'll find slow worms. Might see common lizards. We won't see grass snakes, I don't think. Haven't seen any here for a long time. And I'm hoping we can find an adder. And here's the weird thing. We're on a really, really busy road. Because the forest has changed so much with public pressure and become overgrown in some of the best adder places. Ironically, how ironic is this? The best chance we've got at this time of year, it's autumn, so there's a lot of overgrown and undergrowth anyway. The best chance we've got of finding adders is in a small spot of this roadside verge with juggernauts flying by all the time. They're not fazed by it. How strange is that? So it shows how nature finds a niche, not always where we expect. So come and join us, and we'll keep you updated as and when what we find, and we'll show you what we find soon. Gorgeous little young slow worms. You've got this year's baby here. You've got last year's babies here. 4 slow worms, all doing really well. Look where we are. We're next to a horrendously busy road, and they're literally a foot from the edge of the road. If the habitat's right, animals will come. This is typical, isn't it? This always makes me think, you know, in 100 years, if mankind vanished, nature would be overtaken our world so much. Look at this old road. It's been bypassed now. First thing to colonise is really mosses, and as they die and grow, they become soil. The leaves on the surrounding trees come down, land down every autumn, and rot down, gradually building up soil until things like seeds and things can get their roots in any cracks in the ground, and they've got, if you like, soil now to work with. And very soon, low-lying perennial and annual plants turn into trees. The ground breaks up with their roots. Gradually, it's just going to overtake, nature would overtake. This whole space would be full of trees. Remember at the beginning, I was telling you about the old railway line. It was so good here for adders, and now it's overgrown. It looks like this now. And yet at one time, it pretty much looked like this, surrounded by sparse shrubbery. Nature really doesn't need us. We need it, and it would soon consume our world and make it back to its own again. It wouldn't take long at all. And then here, this moss overgrowing this old road really shows how quickly nature claims back its old ground, really. Fascinating. Common kestrel there. So where we are right now, that'll be eating an awful lot of grasshoppers. It's inundated with grasshoppers at this time of year. He's obviously looking for shrews and voles, especially short-tailed field voles. And sadly, what we've come to look for, kestrels happily take common lizards for sure, and small baby slow ones. Something to appreciate is actually what you've got. Now, if you look around here, this is a wildflower meadow that's now pretty much turned. Autumn's here, and it's very few, there's a few red clover still flowering, but very much gone. But what it has got is still a lot of grassland here. Food for grasshoppers. Now, here's the thing. This place is absolutely chock full of grasshoppers, and I know that because Georgia has just said how deafening they are. They're rubbing their little legs, and they're stridulating, and they're singing to their girlfriends, or whatever they're doing. Maybe they're calling out their territory, but it's alive with the noise of grasshoppers, and that's how we know they're here. deafening, I've been told. Here's the thing though, guys. I can't hear any of them. I didn't know I couldn't hear them. Didn't notice they'd gone until Georgia actually said how loud they are. Being an old git, and a man especially, men use the high pitch of their hearing first, and if you've done a noisy job in the past like I have, it damages that hearing, and the high pitch is what goes. I can hear a pigeon cooing, I could hear the red kites squealing and screaming to each other. Other than that, it's silent, absolutely silent. But Georgia tells me it's alive with the singing of grasshoppers. How very sad. So springtime, all flat. This time of year, the bracken's really high. Much less easy to find sunbathing spots for the adders. I think they're going. You're in the sun. Little baby slow worms, really fat and juicy, fattening upon ant larvae. 3 of them under here. Let's let him wiggle away. Really importantly, guys, if you are flipping rocks or even flipping old bits of tin and metal, really important, put them back exactly where they came from. It's really important. It takes a long time to create this dead habitat of dead vegetation. Sadly, along here, this is a really open place on the public footpath, and most of these rocks get flipped and people let them just roll down the bank. Let's put them back. Really, really critical.
I've just seen the biggest lizard ever and I didn't get it on camera.
Gorgeous young adult slow worm. Look at this beauty. It's absolutely beautiful. Now it's interesting, it's absolutely boiling out here right now. But this rock hasn't heated up yet in the sun, low sun now. And the slow worm's pretty cold to the touch, so quite surprising. Still waiting for that rock to heat up underneath there. We found lots of babies. This one, young adult, sub-adult. What a beautiful creature. Zoom in on his head, just have a look at this beautiful lizard's head. Legless lizard, of course, for those that don't know, these are not snakes. And they can blink. No snakes blink. They don't have any eyelids. Let's slip him back, so put the rock back and let's let him slide back underneath his rock. Or to the side of it, as maybe. Up in here as long, these rocks. Look at these. So if you look at these, ant pupa, ant nest. These are the pupa. The larvae are little squishy maggot-like creatures of ants, and slow worms do eat those. So I've just shown you really what is good habitat on a woodland. Outside of a woodland or a forest edge, a south-facing sunny bank littered with rocks. Really, you don't get much better than that. And what we've seen here is lots of slow worms. We've actually seen half a dozen common lizards, some of them really big. We failed to show you those because we couldn't catch them or they wouldn't keep still. But a real classic kind of, if you can find habitat like this, sunny spot, sunny bank on a woodland edge, littered with rocks, you're in good territory and a good place to look for some reptiles for sure. Let's just pick them out and then I can put it back down on them. Or not on them rather.
By the road is where we've mostly seen stuff.
Again, juvenile slow worms. They're all going to get straight back under the edge of this piece of steel. So the kids want a helping hand. Young adults. sort of like just coming up to adulthood. Again, busy main road, piece of steel, 3 juvenile slow worms. Look at these beautiful animals, and let's just... What's the chances of that? There he goes. Brilliant. Well, the phone tells us we've walked just over 6 miles. We've done a big round trip. Undergrowth was too high, making adder finding really difficult, and sadly even the roadside verge, which gets trimmed once a year, has grown up, making it almost impossible to find them. The couple of little bits of junk we found, there was a lot of junk on the roadside, but like likely looking bits, as you've seen, as you saw earlier, held quite a few slow worms. It's quite interesting to see how they don't just obviously come together under suitable piece of metalwork and sheeting that's great for them to hide under and still warm up under. It's quite nice for us to see how what's the word when animals group together, Georgia? What am I trying to say? When they're not sociable, kind of how sociable they are. So a big piece of metalwork about 4 feet long, and we find 3 slow worms all curled up together, and it looks identical underneath the whole bit. And we found that time and again under rocks. So lots of baby slow worms this year's, lots of last year's baby slow worms, lots of slow worms that are sort of 3, 4, 5 years old. So nothing big though, no really decent sized adults, which is interesting, but plenty of slow worms about. We saw several, including a couple of really big common lizards, the viviparous lizards, but sadly I'm too slow to catch them, and they wouldn't stay still long enough for us to film them. And no adders whatsoever, mostly due to the habitat and the difficulty finding them at this time of year. In a few days time I'm heading off to Norfolk, and I'm going to be right near a couple of heathlands that are full of adders. Looked at the forecast today, it's saying 21 degrees in the van. It's 25 degrees or more out there in the sun. It's really hot. Next weekend, when I might get away for a few hours, it's actually 14 degrees and 5 degrees at night, so probably won't have any out unless the sun peeps through the clouds, but if we do, we'll let you see them. But for us, a bit disappointing. My last proper adder hunt of the year. We're going to be waiting until February, March time now, depending if we get some sunshine in early spring. Enjoy the rest of the vlog. So Carla's, out of pure generosity, took it on himself to help some of these young guns here at Icarus to learn how to swing a lure to a falcon, and it's not easy. It's not easy at all, and it's also not easy for the falcon, because if you're used to someone else's timing and how they do things, you're gonna catch that person out. So you saw there, the falcon beat James. Oh, not a bad pass, not a bad effort that time. It saw his weakness, it saw his new to this. That was a nice pass though, so he's got over his nerves, poor James. He saw on an earlier vlog Carl helping Emily. Whoa, close. And what James has done is tied a big lump of food onto that lure. The falcon's already hit it, and in great classic style it could easily fly off and the falcon disappear with a free lunch. So he shouted ho, that's the signal. Oh, that is the signal to say your dinner is served, we're going to let you catch it this time 100%. You heard it again. It's a sound that travels a long way, and that's all about timing. And if you can keep an eye on the falcon, it will stall. So Carol's moved in because you don't want to stall and sit down. A lovely catch. It's all about just throwing a ball to a little toddler. It's all about timing. Look at that. For a first time swinging a lure, that was absolutely brilliant. Then you can practice all you like on your own until you've got a bird which is completely random. It will time and do things as it wants. It takes that a bit longer. So now the guys are going to feed the falcon up. It's worked hard. It's got some food on the lure, and Carl will step it up to the rest of its food on the glove. Obviously a well-behaved dog, Maya, German short-haired pointer. She's been told to wait there, and she has done. She's not running in to take the food off the falcon. They're a proper team. And Carla will be telling James what he's done wrong and what he's done right. For a grumpy old man, Carl is actually a very good teacher. But don't tell anybody I said that. Well, a great chap called Aidan popped over last night to pick up quite a few of the Pueblo milk snakes we've been breeding, and him and his dad keep all kinds of European amphibians and reptiles in really big outdoor enclosures, and they kindly did a few swaps with me, a couple of things I really sort of quite wanted, quite liked. So have a look at these. These are young marble newts, to give you some idea of size. Now these beautiful newts, they get to the same sort of size as a great crested newt we get in the UK. These and the next animals are really nostalgic. They take me back to a holiday I had with a girlfriend, or when I was about 17 I think, to the south of France, whereas I found marble newts in the wild, which was fantastic, as well as these great things. These are baby edible frogs. Have a look at these. I'm going to be really careful. These little guys, edible frogs, they were also there in amongst some woodland ponds on this south of France holiday back when I was a kid, and the local campers, the local French campers, were catching them using a fishing hook on a fishing rod with a little bit of red cloth attached. The frogs were grabbing hold of that thinking they got a big juicy fly, and what were the French campers doing with all these big edible frogs they were catching? They were cutting their back legs off and frying them on the barbecue. Would you believe it? They were actually catching their own frogs' legs. Hopefully the same fate won't happen to these gorgeous things. And again, part of our dream for next year, setting some of these things up in outdoor enclosures where we can really appreciate them. For now, we're going to set them up in a small enclosure where we can make sure they're right near lots of food, small crickets and fruit flies, and grow on nice and quickly. Just thought we'd show you those edible frogs and marble newts. Little baby spadefoot, European spadefoot toads. Look at them digging down already. Oh, I don't think that one is over there though. Oh, yeah. They're hungry. Oh. Good eyesight. That one's clambering all over. But that cricket's done a wise move for keeping still. Anyway, they'll soon grow. Have a look at this spider up at the Falconry Centre. It's that time of year when house spiders are looking for girlfriends, and if you look at its body, it's only, what, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch long at the most. But the legs on house spiders make them look so big. Let's just have a look. Excuse my dirty hands, we're rewiring stuff. The size of that. Of course, compared to a heavy-bodied spider like a tarantula, it's tiny, look. But whoa, those big legs. Whoa, look at him go. And we know he's a male because right at the front there, those two things that look a little bit like feelers, with bubbles on the end, they're his pedipalps. Well, they're his sex organs. And we know he's a big boy. Yeah. It's too slippery on that wall frame. They don't have really good suckers on their feet, house spiders. That's why they get stuck in your bar. Oh, come on, phone, focus. He is. Go on, go and get a girlfriend and eat up, eat up some spiders, some flies or something useful.
Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.